I'll never forget the sound. A deep hollow crack followed by the roar of something far worse. I was driving down the gravel road to my grandfather's farmhouse when I saw it, thick black smoke curling into the pale morning sky. My hands tightened around the wheel, my heart hammering. By the time I skidded into the driveway, the fire had swallowed nearly everything. Flames licked through the old timber walls, devouring decades of history, the family photographs, my grandmother's quilts, the books my grandfather had collected since he was a boy. Grandpa James stood in the yard, his weathered hands trembling as the volunteer fire crew fought a losing battle. His voice cracked when he whispered, "It was her. I know it was her. I didn't have to ask who." Everyone in Willow Creek knew her, Karen Milstone, head of the HOA board, queen of complaints, and my grandfather's personal tormentor for years. She'd fought him over everything. The unsightly windmill he refused to tear down, the offensive blue paint on the barn, even the wildflowers in his front yard. And now this. One of the firemen pulled me aside. "The fire started near the east wall," he said. "Looked like accelerant was used." His eyes hardened. "We're treating this as arson." As the flames shrank to smoldering ruin, Grandpa's gaze stayed locked on the road, waiting for her to appear, almost daring her. And as if summoned by his fury, a silver SUV rolled up. Karen stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a perfectly pressed suit, as though she was heading to brunch. "Oh, James," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "What a tragedy. If only you'd kept the property up to HOA standards, maybe this could have been avoided." My fists clenched. "Are you threatening him?" I demanded. Karen smiled coldly. "Merely stating facts. I hope you have good insurance." The fire crew stared at her like they couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. Grandpa didn't say a word, just looked at her with an expression I'd never seen before, not anger, not sorrow, something colder. That night, after the last ember died, Grandpa sat at the kitchen table in my small house, staring at the wall. "Finally," he said, "if she wants to fight, we'll fight. But not here, in court." I didn't know it then, but the man Karen thought she'd crushed was about to become her worst nightmare. The next morning, the fire's acrid scent still clung to my clothes. We returned to the property, boots crunching over blackened debris. The old porch where I'd played as a child was now just a skeleton of charred beams. Grandpa knelt, sifting through the ashes with bare hands, searching for anything that had survived. "This was your grandmother's locket," he said softly, holding up a misshapen piece of gold. His fingers trembled, but his jaw was set like stone. "She's not taking everything from me. Not like this." I knew what he meant. Over the years, Karen had waged a relentless campaign against him, letters, fines, even threats of legal action. The fire wasn't just property damage, it was the final strike in a war she'd been fighting in broad daylight. As we surveyed the wreckage, a county fire investigator arrived, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Walker," he said to Grandpa, "the burn pattern and residue strongly suggest an accelerant, gasoline, or something similar." He glanced at me before lowering his voice. "Do you know anyone who might have had a reason to do this?" Grandpa didn't hesitate. "Karen Milstone, head of the HOA." The investigator raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation." Grandpa's eyes didn't waver. "So is burning down a man's home." Over the next few days, I helped him piece together evidence. We pulled the HOA's public meeting minutes from the past year, each one peppered with Karen's name beside violations she claimed Grandpa had committed. We found a letter she'd sent just 2 weeks before the fire, threatening immediate and severe consequences if he didn't comply with HOA rules. But the most damning piece came from a neighbor, old Mr. Dobbins, who said he saw a silver SUV parked near the east wall of Grandpa's property the night before the fire, the same make and model Karen drove. When we handed everything to the sheriff, he gave a slow nod. "We'll pursue it." Karen's response came faster than we expected. A crisp envelope arrived by certified mail, a lawsuit. She was suing Grandpa for property blight and damages to neighborhood value. Grandpa read it in silence, then slid it back into the envelope. "She thinks she's untouchable," he said quietly. "Let's see how she feels on the witness stand." I didn't know how, but I could see the plan forming behind his eyes. And when Grandpa had a plan, there was no stopping him. 2 weeks later, we returned to court. This time, the gallery was full. Neighbors, reporters from the local paper, even a few HOA members who had once stood firmly behind Karen. The air buzzed with quiet anticipation. Grandpa had been patient until now, letting our attorney lay the groundwork. But today, he decided it was time to strike. The sheriff took the stand first, confirming the accelerant traces matched the type sold at a gas station just 3 miles from Grandpa's property. Then came the bombshell, security camera footage from that very station. The grainy video showed a woman in a dark coat filling a red gas can. The timestamp was 10:42 p.m. the night before the fire. The SUV parked beside her was unmistakably silver. Karen's lawyer objected immediately. "This could be anyone. The footage is unclear." The judge raised a hand. "Mrs. Milstone, is that your vehicle in the video?" Karen's face froze. I can't say for sure." The courtroom murmured. Grandpa's gaze never left her, his expression carved in stone. "Next, Mr. Dobbins testified." His voice was slow, deliberate. "I seen that silver SUV by the east wall of James' house that night. Headlights off. Someone was walking with a red can." Karen's hands clenched around her pearl necklace. She avoided looking at him. When it was Grandpa's turn to speak, he didn't raise his voice. "I'm not here for revenge," he said. "I'm here because a home is more than wood and nails. It's where a family breathes, where memories live. She took that from me. And for what? A garden she didn't like. A barn she thought was ugly." For a moment, Karen's polished mask cracked. She muttered something under her breath, too low for most to hear. But I caught it. Rules are rules. The judge's pen stopped moving. "Mrs. Milstone, did you just admit to this fire being related to HOA rules?" Karen's eyes widened. "No, I meant, enough," the judge said sharply. "We'll reconvene for closing arguments tomorrow. Mrs. Milstone, I suggest you prepare yourself." As we left the courthouse, the crowd outside swarmed with questions. Cameras flashed. For the first time, Karen kept her head down. That night, Grandpa sat by my fireplace, the one place still warm and whole. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "is when the truth finally burns brighter than the fire." The courtroom was silent when the final session began. Even the hum of the ceiling fan seemed to fade as the judge took her seat. Karen sat stiffly at the defense table, her pearl necklace gone, replaced by a thin chain. Her attorney's eyes were red, as if he'd been up all night. Grandpa leaned over to me. "She's not smiling anymore," he whispered, a faint trace of steel in his voice. The judge motioned for closing arguments. Karen's lawyer tried to spin the evidence as circumstantial, no direct witness to the act itself, no confession, only speculation fueled by neighborly disputes. But his words fell flat. The station footage, the accelerant traces, the witness testimony. It all formed a net too tight to slip through. Then it was our turn. Our attorney spoke plainly. "This is not just about property loss. This is about intimidation, abuse of authority, and the deliberate destruction of a man's life. Mrs. Milstone used her position to harass my client for years. And when her threats didn't work, she resorted to the ultimate act of control, fire." Grandpa's eyes never left the judge. When asked if he had any final words, he stood and spoke directly to her. "I've lived in Willow Creek my whole life. I've seen storms take barns. I've seen time wear down fences. But nothing prepares you for the day a neighbor decides you don't belong in your own home. If there's no consequence for that, then none of us are safe. The judge sat back, hands folded. For a long moment, the only sound was the ticking clock on the wall. Then she leaned forward. Mrs. Milstone, the evidence against you is compelling. Accelerant purchase, vehicle identification, witness testimony, combined, they leave little doubt as to your involvement. This court finds you liable for the destruction of Mr. Walker's home. A sharp inhale rippled through the gallery. Karen's face drained of color. You can't, she began, but the judge's voice cut through. You will pay restitution for the full value of the home and damages for emotional distress. Additionally, this matter will be referred to the district attorney for criminal charges. Gasps echoed. Cameras flashed. Karen's lawyer placed a hand on her arm, but she yanked it away, staring at Grandpa with an expression somewhere between rage and disbelief. Grandpa didn't gloat. He simply nodded once, as if acknowledging that a wrong had finally been set right. Outside, the sunlight was bright against the courthouse steps. Grandpa paused, breathing it in. Funny, he said quietly. How the ashes didn't end things, they started them. And with that, we walked away, not toward what was lost, but toward what could be rebuilt. If you found this story as shocking and intense as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of these wild real-life HOA dramas coming up next. Don't forget to like this video if you want more justice-served stories, and drop a comment below. What would you have done if you were in this situation? I love reading your thoughts and stories. Stay tuned, because the next chapter is going to get even crazier.